Welcome to Bridges Live and Dr. Paul Podcast Live. And we like to do on Bridges, we like to do a couple things. We like to do information, we like to do understanding, and we like to do action. And I love to have my guest on, of course. And then now with this new incredible world of Zoom, we get to have a visual along with the audio, along with questions. If you have any comments or suggestions, you can put it on the YouTube Live, and I can answer them. If you don't have any questions later, you can always contact me at drpaulholisticscience.com, and I'll be so happy to answer your questions then, or you can always reach me at drpaulholisticscience.com. So let's get right into it, Jennifer. A busy woman that you are, and I know we're talking about empowering women of today in this type of climate. But give people a little synopsis about you, besides your being such a free-spirited, but tell people, say, hey, I'm Jennifer. Hi.
Yes, thank you so much. I am Jennifer. So I am much like you, born and raised in New York, a New Yorker, and absolutely a free spirit. Just got back from 2 years that I was abroad on the other hemisphere, and just reacclimating back to the USA. But in general, my story is pretty much that I had 15 plus years in corporate America in New York City. And, there reached a point in time where there wasn't that much fulfillment in that space anymore. And so I started to fill my own cup through travel, through retreats, through so many experiences, really trying to connect more with myself and with others. And through that.
Here's the thing I get a lot because I travel. People are going to ask you, how do you afford it? Like, I would love to travel, I want to do this, because I get it all the time, and my answer is, you just do it. Right? You make a decision, you just do it.
The answer is to make the decision and stuff will appear. I mean, listen, tactically, have I put it on credit cards? Absolutely. Has there been a little bit of savings as well? But I've been a traveler even before that period. I mean, I've been traveling since very young. And so the minute that college broke out, instead of going to Cancun, I was going to Europe. My choices were very different. I didn't need to go party. I wanted to go experience culture more. And so for me, I just wanted to understand other humans that lived in other countries and see that they were somewhat like me, but in different spaces, right? So it was really always attractive. So yeah, the money thing, I mean, for everyone, it's different. In my 20s, put it all on credit cards. Didn't think about it once or twice because I felt that the energy of money, I've never been beholden to. Okay, we all have our own relationship with money, right. But I would say I've always been very free with money. I feel like it's there to be spent as well and enjoyed, and I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I know what's going to happen right now.
With doing a lot of this, especially with Bridges Live and talking with people, I understand you completely. But when we talk to people who don't have or understand or can even relate to the concept of being free with money, to them, you may have heard, how can you be so cavalier? How can you be so irresponsible?
Oh, I get that all the time.
Right. So how do we answer that? Because when we talk about empowering people, a lot of the times we want to talk not to the choir, but to people who just sit there and go, I don't know. I don't know if I could ever do that. And I think that holds them such in tight spaces where it doesn't free them to be free. Because I never talk about being careless, like, let's just spend it all, right? That to me is cavalier or being irresponsible. But if you want to go to Madrid, go to Madrid instead of, Texas. To me, you can work it out. If you live in New York, you can go to Madrid. Well, I can drive to Texas. I can't drive to Madrid. I understand there's certain things you have to do, passport, blah, blah, blah. But you could find a cheap flight, hopper flights, to get to Madrid. You know what I mean? So how do we talk to those people that just seem so closed off?
Yeah. Well, you said so many things, and I think the first thing I when you started was expansiveness versus constrictive decision making, right? Yeah. Like even your body went like this, and us always saying no, no, no before we even think about the possibilities. We're so conditioned to just say no, right. And not from like a healthy boundary standpoint, but no to the opportunity, no to the thought of something different. And I mean, I was always a no person also. I think someone was walking with me in Brooklyn one day, and she's like, why aren't you, this was like 6 years ago, she's like, why don't you do your own thing? Why don't you, she didn't even say a coach, she was like, why don't you be an entrepreneur? And I automatically said no.
Wow.
Because I've been so conditioned to be like, well, I like the stability of a paycheck. I like the stability of having healthcare, of other people taking care of me, right? Literally, that's the security at that mindset that I was maybe 6 or 7 years ago, that I was conditioned to really indoctrinate, to be honest, right? We all are. And so, it took a few years later to understand that I can bring my own sense of security. I can create my own pay ceiling. It's just this empowerment of that, why don't you take more responsibility with your life and ownership with it? And so, absolutely. I mean, going back to your earlier question about money, I would say that I have been careless with money in my 20s. I put everything on credit cards and never looked at it. I just made money and spent it. Now there's a different awareness that you can circulate money, but it's much like Buddhism or any practice. You need to give it love, care, and you have to visually see it often, right? And respect it. Also tell the universe what you want to do, use it for. And so it is more responsibility with your relationship with money, with the expansiveness that's going to allow you to take those leaps. And it is scary for a lot of us, but
because when we go to these seminars, and you've probably been to tons and heard things, you gotta start welcoming success. You can't just be, because success is an energy field. Look at success as a relationship you want to have. And we get into relationships, whether it be, doesn't matter what type of relationship, we kind of get into with the one eye open and kind of like, I'm not too sure about you, and what are you going to, and like you poke it, and are they going to be, like, what? It's like dating, and you're like, it's a blind date. It's like you're blind dating success. And you're like, I've been on a couple of these, and they don't really work out so well.
Rather than just deciding to enjoy, right? So going back to your question, I think the difference is if you start understanding your decision making a lot more, are you even making decisions? Are you fearing to make decisions? And so understanding how you react to decision making, and when your soul, your inner spirit wants to go to Madrid versus a road trip, satiating that, because in you not satiating it, it's creating this from an energy level, right? It's creating something that you're repressing, a repressed dream, a repressed want. And so really, at least for me in the last 2 years, it's been connecting more with my intuition and trusting it, just like blindly trusting it. And it's been serving me. It's opening up doors more. And I don't know how else to explain it, but we have to trust in it. There's countless stories, countless people's journeys. Instead of scrutinizing the decisions, scrutinizing and being so much in your head, let's be more in the heart space and be taken in that way.
So,
and I think really what converts us,
And I agree with you, being more in the heart space instead of the head space. And that's where intuition lies, right? It lies within the body, deep inside your core. Now, the question I know many people have, and it comes like with meditation or positiveness or success, is how do you feel the difference between in here than up here? How do you know, how would you explain the difference to understand the difference?
For me?
Yeah.
Specifically, I know when I'm overthinking, dwelling on something, not even decision making, just whatever, a mental spiral, I often call it that.
I like
it just goes from one tangent to one tangent, but then you look at your life in the last 3 or 4 days, it's the same thread, but no action has been taken. So it'll either one, disappear, like that creative energy will disappear and go out of your system, or they'll just keep coming up again with small nudges. So for me, these mental spirals, overthinking, that's all fear and hesitation on your part. And so it is as simplistic as that. And I think we all suffer from worry and everybody being anxious. And worrying and anxiety is just literally, the stepping stone from overthinking too much and just being too much in the head. So much stimulation. I know there's a lot more factors than that, but from your own thoughts at least. And it's giving more fire to the fuel, right? Your energy and attention. So obviously, if they're positive thoughts, that's a positive vibration. But even in positive thinking, keeping it inside to yourself is selfish in a certain way, right? Because you're not being of service to others. So either way, positive or negative thoughts, they need to be, but the negative thoughts need to be stopped, the pattern. But definitely on the positive level, at least for my journey and for many others, you get to a point where you have so much greatness happening in your life or so much achievement and transformation that what could you do to service others to come into that space?
I totally agree, because I really believe we're put on this earth to serve. And to serve means to give yourself to it is not just, here, take me, use me. That's different than servicing others, like being able to water another flower to grow, or these type of metaphors to allow things to us to nourish together instead of rip each other apart. And this really falls right into a lot of the climate is a nice political word we can use, that what's going on of this climate that we're in. And I want to go straight into empowering. Your journey is now empowering women so they too can nourish and succeed. How did you go? How did you now expand into that tree?
Yeah, I mean, I think in being abroad, I woke up one day frustrated, and I was like, "What am I doing with all this experience that's happening to me?" Right? So there was a lot of me, investing in, I don't know, yoga, meditation centers. There was all this knowledge building up inside for personal use. Okay. And then I think what happened one day is I woke up, literally remember myself that day in bed, waking up and really angry at myself in the view of frustration, because I was asking myself, what are you doing next? Are you going to go back into corporate? And the answer was, on a body level, was like, hell no, I'm not. Okay, so what are your choices? So this is literally the conversation in my head. What are your choices? And that conversation had been sitting for months, So it had just gotten to an explosive state where it was like, okay, what are you doing? Like, you want to be in Bali? You want to stay out here? How are you going to make money? How are you going to make a living? But also, how are you going to intertwine that into everything that's been going on to you? How can you serve people? So literally, it was just like a morning conversation that just happened. And
it was time for you to wake up.
That's really what it was, because I had been on the awareness journey for so long, literally dipping my toe into it, but still dipping my toe into my former life, right? So I was playing with both and trying to get my cake and eat it too, and it wasn't going to work. You had to make a decision.
Do you think it was fear that held you back, or you were just, it wasn't fear, it was just, because to me, there's a difference between fear and uncertainty.
Whew. I'm going to go back and say that in the beginning, that held me back was the unknown. I had no models of success in entrepreneurship in my home life and or my peer set. My peer set was all 9-to-5ers, ambitious, making more money. First it was 100K, first it's 200K. That's exactly it. Owning houses, the whole nine. So I was modeling a little bit my environment, and until I started to build up my own identity, understand what I wanted to do, what was important for me. Yeah, so it was just part of the journey, but I agree with you that I don't think it was a hesitation. I just don't know how to do the entrepreneurial game. That's what I would tell myself.
Right.
And quite frankly, I was able to do a lot of marketing and business for bigger companies, but I just didn't think of myself as a brand and how can I do that for myself. And if anything, I meet marketers today or anybody who's in business, or I think anybody beyond business can do this. But once you do have a skill or a knack for social media or just things like that, I'm like, girlfriend, you are primed to do this because it comes so natural. Because I actually work with a lot of clients that, 20% of them, it comes natural, but the rest, they're like technology, like not rookies, so it's a lot me teaching them how to become confident in the space. But anyway, but I think that in a nutshell really was what did it for me. And I actually wanted to help both men and women, because for me, it's the bigger purpose of just helping humanity and whatever they want to feel, right? But I did decide on women, obviously, because I am a woman. I do feel a stronger connection, obviously, as a woman. And in modeling either my mom, my aunts, anybody, my ancestors, and just modeling on the fact that they have dreams and they all haven't been superbly fulfilled, and just how can I bridge that gap a little bit more for anybody who's in my energy field. That's what I really would like to do.
One of the things you said that it makes, if people didn't hear you, I want to go back to it. It's like we can only model what we see or what we're around. And it's very difficult if I'm in a tenement in lower income X city, area, state, whatever. Where is my model that I can be what I think I can be when I don't have a model? Now, I understand some youth will have the Snapchat and they'll have some reality shows and they may flick by on somebody screaming at them saying, if you cash now and we can get you rolling in dough. But they still, when it's all shut off, they don't have a model. They don't visualize. They don't have a mother or a father they can see, or an uncle that's maybe not in prison or whatever. I'm really talking about the depleted vision. And how do you think we can get them out of there? Because that's where we do a lot of our mentoring, and we love to do that, you and I and everyone. But there are some people out there who watch this and says, I don't have a model.
Mm-hmm. Well, then, and I totally get what you're saying. Obviously the answer is beautiful in mentorship, but if it's not accessible to you. Yeah. So this is the thing also, right? It is the mindset, because as we know, there are a lot of people who have come from, depleted resources, or how you ever want to frame it, and still come out of it. Right. It's just a small percentage of it. So what was the difference? It was that person that created that opportunity, right? That found that one person at the corner or 2 blocks away, ventured a little bit out of their comfort zone to acquire a mentor, to stick to an energy that is going to help them in thinking differently. I think no matter of income status, like that opportunity has always been available for us, just human beings. So it's also understanding, like you're saying, human beings' energy, right? Are they making it? Understanding and recognizing toxic behavior. And then there's always reading. There's always things that you can do to saturate your mind. So if it's not modeling at the minute with a person close to you, luckily we have this social media. There's so much inspiration that you can get just from people, and start thinking. I've been talking to a lot of lovely women in the last 2 weeks that are right out of college, and they might not be able to afford being with me, but I still love taking the calls, and I will, develop programs for them in the future. But the reality is, it's important to hold space and be a resource for for everyone, at any income bracket and any age. So I come to, women who work with me. So I'm 40 years old. And other people would give me shit. Like, I don't know how many times I've talked to people on the phone, and they're like, I'm 42, I'm done, I can't reinvent myself, I'm just going to collect this paycheck.
That's sad.
That's sad.
It's sad.
Because, right? Don't you agree? Like, I don't...
Like, they've literally given up. They quit. They're done.
Yeah, the quitting team. And that's where you have to have deep faith, right? That's where you have to have deep discipline, something connected to you on a heart level to stay the course, and be connected to a grander why, which is what you were saying, our reason to support each other and uplifting, and just really keep on staying the course there. So it's an epic journey, and I think a lot of us are awakening right now, obviously with all this, with the global climate. I think we all do it at different points in our journey in life, a few different times. But I think now there's just a global collective,
Right.
It's really so introspective. It's so potent. People are reflecting a lot. And I think it's calling us to really, I was going to say man up, but really, get the balls to really just take the leap and do something. I hate to sound cliche, but it's just really, I remember every person who would ask for advice before I stepped into this role. I was like, what is like the premier advice you would give me? And all of them would say the same thing, like 3 of them would say, get started. And I was like, I would roll my eyes. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
But it is simple. Right?
It is that simple.
Don't you agree?
Yeah.
Because not starting, you're still staying in your mental space. You're
That's
still
right.
staying stuck. You're not doing anything different to shift your reality.
I try to sometimes, I understand that it seems like since we've been small, teenagers to whatever we are now, 50 plus, how did we develop our first love? Like, who was that in a physical relationship? When that person that you had your heart skipping a beat and you never said anything, that should be how you feel about yourself. But now it's time for you to say something. Say something. Say something to yourself where you fall in love with, yes, I am, and yes, I can. That, to me, is the beginning of the ultimate relationship, and that's the start. Because once you say yes to yourself, then there is no more no's. It's just, I will.
No, exactly. Yeah. It's the trusting. And I think that's what we have to work with all humans, but I know I've been working more with women, and I agree. It doesn't matter how perception-wise they look. I mean, meaning like visually they appear, if they already have a presence or anything online. We all have a work to do around, our self-worth and our confidence. I think that's the majority of the work that I do is mindset work around that, It's because we don't make the time, because of distractions, because of our family life, whatever. We don't make that consistency. So the first few things that we work on is definitely consistency. Because for me, that's what's been different in my life. I'm still working on me. I'm sure you're still working on you. Yeah. But the only difference that's happened, I haven't really changed as a person. It's just the difference before is that I would be a quitter on everything. And 3 weeks in, quit. Or a month in, 2 months, probably the longest stretch was 3 months, but now I can say that I've done, I think it's been 18 months now of always having a daily practice, whatever that practice means to you, in my case, it looks different, a few different months. I shift it obviously as I shift, but that is that emotional wellness and hygiene that we need. And I think we just need to honor that. And that's really how we give ourselves love and allow for the intuition to be cultivated and that guidance to really set in on what's next, right? Because I think I would definitely say that I was indecisive before. I just kind of went with the majority or the flow or people pleased.
The mob ruled.
That goes away when you're able to really clearly hear if it's a yes or a hell yes or a hell no,
So how can people get a hold of you if they want more advice and they want to start this journey that you can help them with?
Yeah, my main platform is Instagram, and I have a website, but it's She Vibes High, so shevibeshigh.com or at She Vibes High on Instagram. Yeah, just send me a direct message or, book a chat, and we'll go from there. But I think there's just such a great energy right now for creation, for creatives. And there's no time like the present for us to really at least put one foot forward and see what happens. What's the worst thing that can happen? That you gain a yet newer opportunity for you, a lesson learned, an expansiveness that you never felt before. That's really what it is for me. I mean, I help people putting business online. But the reality is, whether you do that or not, the transformation of just giving yourself the opportunity to spend some time, and doing things that you've never done before and achieving them feels so good when you achieve things, for sure. So just more joy.
I want to say thank you, Jennifer Madrid, for visiting with Dr. Paul and Bridges Live and all of his guests and people. And I know we'll be talking more soon later. Again, I'm going to be putting her contacts in with the podcast and with the information and all that stuff that you can catch later on the YouTube channel or on my iPod or iHeart channels and things like that. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Any last words before we take off?
Just get started.
I love it.
And take care of you. Make decisions from a point of love. We all just need to do more of that and, treat everybody with love. So,
God bless.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and have a great night.
You too.